couple nights ago, I saw some footage from a camera that I have actually never used before. I fell in love with it. The boys on Discord helped me find one, and I'm about to go pick it up right now. I think you're gonna like this.
Smoke in the traffic. Okay, so here it is, the weirdest camera I've ever seen. This is the Iconoscope ACAM D2, 1080p, uncompressed RAW, Cinnamon DNG. It's a Super 16 sensor, PL mount. I have a set of super speeds, Century 5.7mm, super wide. The camera has the record button up here. This is the other side. You have a viewfinder that adjusts as needed. Your menu button's here, small form factor. The power button is right here. The back is kind of interesting, Sony NPF batteries. And you have your card, which is a weird looking thing. You have an SDI port, super weird form factor, cool looking, and the footage is special. So I really like simple menu systems. There's no different recording modes or codecs. Nothing is complicated in the menus. And when you're operating, there's some really convenient exposure tools like a false color that you just hit down on this wheel and it brings up the false color. And if you hit in on it, it can bring up a waveform. So it's super fast and easy to move through the settings. It's just these buttons here. So this is the side display, which is similar to what you see through the viewfinder. I'm gonna just hit menu and we can see that it's very simple. We only have 4 options here. View is where you can play back your previous clips. You hit menu, you can go back to the previous menu. We have our frames per second. Shutter interval is for time lapse, and you can take a still image. In our frames per second, we can go up to 30 in setup. One of my favorite things in the menu, color temp, daylight or tungsten. 2 options, gotta pick one. The viewfinder mask is for different aspect ratios. Under maintenance, you can erase your card. This is a CCD sensor, which is a little bit different. There's different quadrants basically, and occasionally they need to be calibrated, or you will see the quadrants in your footage, which you do not want. Typically the default that is set in the factory is good. And that's it. There's another button for your gain, which is kind of like ISO, but since the shoot's uncompressed RAW, it is recommended that you stay at 0 dB gain, and you can push it in post. Okay, that's it for the menu. Easy. Alright, so let's take a look at a little bit of this in DaVinci Resolve. All the footage that you saw was graded, and this is the grade that I landed on. All the clips pretty much had the same grade, but a little bit different in the color temp and exposure from scene to scene. So I have the grade on the timeline to not confuse anything, and I made that grade on top of changing the color space and gamma to Blackmagic Design and Blackmagic Design Film. When you get the footage right off the camera, this is what it looks like. I then moved it over to these and put a grade on it. While it's not log, it is also not fully Rec 709. So I've disabled the timeline grade and we have the footage just right off of the camera. Let's just see what we can do here by working in the curves. I'm gonna bring down the shadows a little bit, bring this up, maybe desaturate. We could also see what dehancer looks like. I'm gonna say that this is Rec 709, so I'm gonna keep the input as Rec 709 and turn off the film profile
and change our print to 2383, and the grain is too heavy. I'm just going to turn it off for now. So then I'm going to go back in here and warm this a little bit and add some green. So that is not too bad. I'm going to save that to a memory and apply it to a different clip. So that doesn't look too bad on here either. I'm going to go down to the clip, and there's no grade on here at all right now. This is right off the camera, and we can see in our scopes that the highlights are clipping definitely here and here. And these are probably fully clipped, but I'm going to hit highlight recovery. Can't quite see anything. And I'm just going to pull down the highlights, and I'm looking at the scopes. And since this is very hot, we're not going to get it all back, but we can see what happens when I uncheck this. We get a little bit more back. Look at the scopes. And you can actually look at right here. So that's getting some of the information back. Bring down these highlights. You can see they're clipped here, and I can hit highlight recovery, and it brings back some of that information. This is a scenario where we'd probably be able to get it all back. This is clipping, and some of these white areas, probably this is clipping as well. Not the biggest deal, but it is noticeable, and you don't want that. So since it's not clipping by too much, I am going to hit highlight recovery and then bring down the highlights a little bit, and it gets them back. You can see here, and in the scopes, it gets them back. I remember doing that a little bit on the Blackmagic pocket camera OG back in the day. Here's our original grade that we made on the first clip. I'm gonna remove these nodes, and all we have here is dehancer. I'm gonna go to our clip. The highlights are looking a little hot. I'm gonna bring them down a little, and the shadows should maybe come up a little bit. You have a lot of flexibility, and you can push this image pretty far, especially in the shadows. So let's find a clip that's a little dark. This grade right here is the original grade that we had on me here. We can lift our shadows pretty significantly and get this image looking normal, even though it was ferociously underexposed. You can really push this a good amount and have it be looking all right. Same here, push our shadows. That is pretty nice. Last clip here, this is with our original grade. I'm gonna change this to Blackmagic Design because that's what we have our grade built on top of. So I might even bring down the shadows a little, bring down the highlights a little. We can see how the contrast works. Color boost, maybe just a little bit, and shift around our color temp. It's kind of nice working with 1080p RAW because nowadays RAW is so big that you have to really make a decision on if you want to shoot RAW or not. But just like back in the day with the OG Pocket Cam, it was really cool to shoot 1080 RAW. Didn't take up too much space. This is kind of similar to that. All right, that's it. Peace.